Again, I'm Brian Whipker at NC State University, and for this presentation, we're looking at PGRs adhering to plastic and the effects of what they're doing and what it takes to remove them. So when we're looking at plastic effects, again, we have some very sensitive species, the most sensitive being something like a begonia, a wax begonia, a vinca, and a pansy. If there's some residual PGR on the plastic, you can have some ill effect on the plant growth that you didn't expect. And that's what you see on the plant on the left, because there's much more growth compared to no plant growth regulator added to the plant on the right. So in this experiment that we did a number of years ago, we wanted to see if there was a relative difference of Paclobutrazol adhering to the plastic. In the case here, we use bonsai in this part of the experiment versus Flurprimidol, which is top floor of the containers. So in the experiment, we got wax begonias in. We grew them in 1801s for 30 days, and we made sure that the roots got to the side of the pot. So we wanted to have contact with the side of the plastic. And we got a second set of 1801s, and we soaked it in a PGR solution for 10 minutes, and then allowed it to drain and dry overnight. So then you had the dry effect on there. So we used bonsai concentrations of 0, 10, 20, and 40, and similar concentrations of top floor, Flurprimidol. And so then what we did is we took those PGR treated plastic trays, 1801s, and then we either did not soak them or soaked them for a minute in clear water, 10 minutes or 60 minutes, and then we allowed them to kind of dry for about an hour, and then we popped the transplanted over the original wax begonias over to this new set that had PGR in it or not. And so we had a PGR rate times a soak time times a chemical effect that we did on this experiment. And 1 month later, we did our measurements to see what happened with the PGRs. So here's the results. So here we're looking at bonsai. Now the plants that are over on the far left side were brand new pots, so they had no PGR in them. And then you can see that as we rinse the pots, soak those pots longer. So in the case 60 minutes versus 10 versus 1 minute, you can see that the effect that the PGR was more active with the shorter soak time. And so really what it gets down to, a soaking of about 60 minutes did a fairly good job of getting most of that PGR off. And you can see that there is a rate effect that goes on there. Likewise, when we see that there's effect here with top floor, we see that the plants are a little bigger. It's probably, there's some rate effect going on there that it wasn't quite as active, because overall the plants are just a little bigger in size. But you can also see that there is less effect of having that dose of top floor on the plants, because even at 60 minutes all the way to about 1 minute, you see that there is a slight decrease, but not to the same extent of what we were seeing with Paclobutrazol. Now, we repeated this study a few years ago, and in this case, we used Piccolo, and we used Piccolo 10XC. Now, what we were trying to prove here, or find out, I should say, because Piccolo 10XC is a different formulation than a Piccolo, and so we thought maybe that there might be a little more of a washing off effect. It'd be easier to dislodge it. And so that's what we did here. Overall, I don't really think we saw that effect go on. I think they pretty well acted pretty similarly if you look across the board on those plants. And of course, totally untreated plants are on the top, and then the rate of Piccolo or Piccolo 10XC increases as you go down each one of those rows. So we were hoping for some slightly different results. And here's just our second cultivar, and pretty well we had the similar results going on with those plants there. So one thing interesting in the second study that you can see that here's 40 part per million Piccolo on the plastic with it soaked and no rinse. And then if you're wondering if you do have some effect, we did see some remarkable effects going on here with the root development, because when those roots were in contact with the side of the pot, they started to have a lot of secondary shoots coming out versus the untreated is the plant on the left. So you could probably use that a little for a diagnostic key that you're looking at. So overall, when we're looking at the experiment, it pretty well appears that there's probably a little more adhesion going on with Paclo. It adheres better to the plastic than top floor. And so, but in our follow-up studies, Piccolo and Piccolo 10XC were similar, and so they should act about the same way as Bonsai. So unfortunately, we didn't really see the effect that we were hoping for of seeing a more easily dislodged formulation of 10XC. If you increase the rinse time, your probability of getting rid of that PGR off the plastic is also better. And so 60 minutes of soaking those pots, if you're reusing, or trays, would be a good idea. But it's still, if you're really going to look at how to grow those sensitive varieties, such as wax begonias, pansies, and Vinca, what should you be doing? And really, I think you ought to be looking at new plastic containers, new plastic trays for plugs, so you do not have any of that PGR effect that's there. And also on some of these plants, especially pansies and Vinca, some of the root rot issues that might come in, or Phalaenopsis, might make it, I think it's a better investment to use new plastic than reusing it also on that account. So that concludes the second part